All right, so the other day I made a video using my mpcx and my new Roland FA06, the black edition. And I pretty much made my first beat on it, which it came out okay. But a few of you guys wanted to know how I routed the audio inside of Logic Pro. And guess what? I didn't even use MIDI. You guys know what that is, right? Like the real MIDI stuff with the cables. Bolo! All right, before we get started, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, and please turn on those post notifications, even though YouTube has not been notifying you guys, but still turn them on anyway, just in case they do notify you. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And if you do not like this video, at the end of the video, just hit that thumbs down. I really don't care. So you guys want to know how to route audio from the mpcx and the Roland FA06 inside of your DAW. Now, there's actually two ways you can do it. I used to do it the first method, which is, hold on. Now, I used to do it this one method a long time ago, before like people were using like computers and DAWs and all that type of stuff to make their beats. I used to use these right here. For some of you kids, these are actual MIDI cables. Yeah, MIDI is a real thing. So I used to use these, and then now I use a totally different method. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that, because MIDI is cool, but it still has its problems sometimes, and I just don't have time to deal with that. So I'm gonna show you guys how to route your audio in by using the click. Some of you guys already knew this method, some of you guys don't, but it works on every single DAW and it works great. So let me show you right now. Y'all can see me? All right, first things first, I gotta show you guys what's kind of going on behind here so you'll know how I'm kind of routing my audio in. And I'm actually gonna do a full configuration video on how I configured my Roland FA06 with my mpcx and how it's running through. But I'm gonna show you this right now. As you can see, these cords right here are my 1/4" cables, and these are coming from the outputs of the FA06, which is down here. So the outputs are actually going into the input inside of the mpcx. And as you can see right here, this black cord right here is actually the USB coming from the FA06 inside of the mpcx. This is what is controlling the MIDI, even though we do have MIDI ports back here. Now, these MIDI ports are still important just in case if you have like an older keyboard that doesn't support USB MIDI. So these are still very much important. And you know, I still have some old gear too, but we're not worried about that right now. All right, so now that we have that done, let's go ahead and get this thing ready for us to transfer all of the audio into our DAW. The first thing that we're gonna have to do in any situation when we're dealing with keyboards is turning the local control off. If you do not do that, you're gonna have like a double sound coming back in, and we all know that double sound has a lot of phase issues and stuff like that. We don't want none of that. Now, if we're doing like some live keyboard sets on stage, we would want to turn local control on. But whenever we're dealing with any type of MIDI information or we're dealing with any type of sequencing, we want to turn the local control off. The next thing we'll have to do is use the input monitoring on the mpcx. What we want to do from there is go into the audio configuration and make sure that it's turned on so the MPC will allow the audio to come into the mpcx. Now, with that turned on, we have to do one thing that is very important if we're going to route audio inside of our DAW without using MIDI, and that is turn on the metronome clicks, even on record and on play. This is the biggest thing. We have to turn on the metronome clicks on record and play. So every time we press play or press record, we're going to hear these 4 clicks right here. That's very important. So now that we have that set up, now we can go ahead and route the audio inside of our DAW. Doesn't matter what we use, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, Studio One, whatever we want to use, we can use the same method. Now, what we have to do is make sure that we have our outputs ready to go into our inputs inside of our audio interface. And my interface is pretty simple. I have an Apollo Twin and it only has 2 inputs, so I can just route it in through a stereo input. And then from there, once I do that, I can just go ahead and press play, do all of my clicks for every single track, and then I just cut and paste. Okay, so right now I have Logic Pro X up right now, and as you can see, I already have my audio tracks already ready to go. And as you can see, I have a record track right here, and this record track is very important because how I do this is going to be the same way like how I record vocals. Instead of me hitting record on each track, I'd rather just record everything on this one track, and then I can just cut and just drag down. If you guys really do vocals, you should know how to do that by now. Maybe I might do a video on that later on if you don't know that method, but this is the method I use when I track in my beats. So I have my audio coming in through 1 and 2 because I have a Universal Audio Twin. It only has 2 inputs, and I have my input turned on right here. Now I have no extra processing or anything coming through, so everything is going to come in through very dry. Now, before we route anything in, we have to make sure that on the MPC that we have the loop turned off and we have it soloed, so we can solo every single part on each track so that no other parts are playing when we're playing just the individual track. So we have to turn the loop off and we have to put each track on solo so that we can just play each track individually. Now, if you have maybe an interface with multiple inputs, we can actually route a few things out to each different input on your device, and then that way we can go ahead and record multiple parts at a time. But on mine, we only have 2 inputs, so I'm just going to do it stereo. It doesn't really take that long to do it. It doesn't, for real. So I have everything ready to go. I have the loop turned off and I have the track soloed. So let's go ahead and record all of our parts in. And it's going to look kind of confusing at first, but once you see me do it, then you'll understand that this method might be a little bit better than actually recorded in through MIDI. Okay, so now that we did the piano part, let's go ahead and add the drum parts in. And as you can see, it is still recording because we're going to be cutting everything by the clicks. And as you can see the clicks right here. So that's what we're going to do. All right, got that done. Let's go to the next track. Now, as you can see, I'm going to be doing everything for all the remainder of the track. So I'm going to go ahead and speed through this, and then I'm going to show you guys how to cut up all the samples that we just recorded. Okay, got everything done. We have all of the sounds in here routed in here, and as you can see, they look kind of small, but let me go ahead and make these a little bit bigger. There we go. There we go. Now we can see everything, and let's actually go ahead and do this real quick. Let's go ahead and make all these tracks a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. There we go. So now we can see all of our tracks, and we have everything routed in here. We have our piano, which is our first sound, and then we have everything else. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this and drag this down, and then we're going to take this, we're going to cut, we're going to drag this down, we're going to take this, we're going to cut, we're going to drag this down, we're going to take this, cut, drag that down, and we're going to do this for all of the tracks. So let's go ahead and speed through that. All right, so before we actually do the cutting on here, we want to make sure that we go and do this to snap regions to absolute value. If we don't do that, it might not line up to the beginning. So we always want to go to snap regions to absolute value. So what I'm gonna do now is highlight this part right here, and I'm gonna press the right arrow key, and then bam, it takes me to the first transient. So all I have to do is press delete from there, and then I can slide this over. And I'm gonna do this for all of the other tracks as well. Okay, there we go. We slid all of them over. It took me maybe less than a minute to do all that, and I got, I think, 7 tracks in this beat. So now I have to go ahead and start my cutting because we want to make sure we have everything lined up. We have to make sure we have the tempo actually set correctly. So the tempo of this beat was 130. So let me go ahead and set that. And as you can see, all of the clicks line up to the grid now. So what we can do is once all of our clicks line up to the grid, I can go ahead and now I can just take it from this point, from the beginning of all the sounds, and just delete that. Take all these and pull these over to the beginning, and there we go. We have a 8-bar loop, and now I can take these and then I can just repeat those over a few times, and now I can sequence the whole beat. So let's go ahead and take this from the beginning right here, and let's play this out. And then from there, I can go ahead and I can do my edits and do everything that I need to do to the beat. So say, for instance, I want to take out this, or I want to take out this particular sound in the intro. I can go ahead and do that, and maybe take the kick and the bass and probably take that out right there, and then do that for the verse part right before the hook comes back in, if that is the hook. And I can just go ahead and sequence this whole track out the way I want to sequence it. So now when I do that, I can play it. Okay, there it is. I hope you guys learned something from this. I hope you guys can see how to route your audio from your mpcx or any synthesizer that you have inside of your DAW without using any MIDI. And as you can see, it did not take that long. Even with bigger sessions, it only takes me about 5 minutes or less if I'm doing it with like 8-bar loops or 16-bar loops. If the loops are a little bit longer, of course it's going to take more time. But if you have more inputs, it'll also save you a lot of time. But I only had 2 inputs, but as you can see, it did not take that long to do it. I think it maybe took me like 2 minutes to do it. But I'm gonna go ahead and play this actual beat at the end of the video. I'm gonna go ahead and do a little mixing and stuff to it. And I hope you guys learned something from it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like I always say, peace out. And check out the beat at the end of the video right now.
Bolo, Bolo, Bolo.